Hi, y'all, and welcome or welcome back to the channel. I am so excited for this week. I feel like this week is kind of boring compared to all the previous weeks we've had in the last several months. If you've seen my TikTok update for this week, then you already kind of have a general idea and picture of the transits for this week. There's really not a whole lot going on. Usually my updates on TikTok, which the video is linked in the description, are anywhere from like 4 to 5 minutes long. And I think the one for this week was only like 3.5 minutes. So there's really like not too much going on this week, which is good. I think we're going to get a little reprieve from the chaos and from all of the challenging, conflicting energy that we have had over the past several weeks that has been really exhausting, to be honest. A big thing happening this week is Uranus moving into Gemini tomorrow. Uranus hasn't been in Gemini since like the 1940s. So this is a pretty big deal. And another thing we have going on this week that is kind of major is the full moon in Capricorn. And that's really kind of it. We're going to have Uranus and Venus both harmonize with Pluto now that they're moving into Gemini this week. So I do think that's going to be a positive boost for this change that you will be experiencing in the area of life, the house in your birth chart. You have Gemini ruling. That is going to get this fresh energy. That's going to get this kind of renewal, this big, just new beginning. I feel like we're all on the brink of almost like spring energy, this just refreshing renewal energy that's happening where you have Gemini in your chart. Gemini is my chart ruler, so I'm very excited for this transit. I feel like it's gonna propel a lot of positive change in my life personally, so I'm really excited for this week. And obviously, Uranus is going to go retrograde as it does every year, and it will go back into Taurus for a little bit towards the end of the year, but we're going to be getting a glimpse of the beginning stages and what the overarching themes will be of Uranus and Gemini these next couple of months before it moves back into Taurus for its final hurrah in Taurus. Uranus in a fixed sign is not comfortable. So Uranus in a mutable sign is going to feel a lot better. It's going to feel a lot lighter, I feel. So that is the overarching energy for this week. This past week was so rough. If you saw my video for last week and resonated with your horoscope, then you probably already know how it has affected you or how it's shown up. Venus conjunct Uranus and Taurus at the 29th degree. Big closing out of a cycle, big wrapping up of a chapter, maybe revolving around things we have been feeling chaotic about over the last 7 years, as Uranus does rule 7-year cycles. I plan to make another video about that. I have made a video before about how Uranus rules 7-year cycles because I've really been reflecting on the 7-year cycles of Uranus and my chart personally over the last couple years and how it's shown up for me. So I do plan to do another video on that. The one I did before, I believe I did that video in 2023, is not a great video, but so I will be talking about it again at some point. So look forward to that. But yeah, just know a big closing out of a cycle has happened. Really that peaked end of last week, and this change of Uranus is bringing this fresh renewal energy of a really big new beginning and chapter that we are starting in our lives. So without further ado, if you're watching live, let me know you're here. And we will get into the rising sign horoscope, starting with Aries. Okay, Aries Rising. This week we start the week off with the moon in Sagittarius in your ninth house, opposite Uranus about to move into your third house, and opposite Venus in your third house. This could be some big breakthrough at the start of the week around communication, belief systems, maybe what you're going or where you're going on a daily basis, who you're talking to on a daily basis as well. There could be this could support some identity shifts as well related to that. And maybe a friend or maybe a a change in your friend groups or a change in your community in some way as well, or your long-term visions and goals. As we get into the week here on Tuesday, we're going to have the moon challenging Mars in Virgo in your sixth house. There could be something that comes up at work or with what you do on a daily basis or with health that kind of challenges, again, belief systems and what's going on like in your mental space and your perspective of life, how you're viewing things around you, and how your view of everything is really creating the reality that you're experiencing. Lots of perception shifts, maybe related to identity shifts that have been occurring over the last couple months for you this week, Aries. I feel like it's a culmination of all of that. Then on Wednesday, we have the moon moving into your 10th house. I think that's where this full moon is going to be. And I think that's going to have you really focused on your career, focused on especially Wednesday, Thursday. And as we get into Friday, the focus is going to be on, okay, what structures, systems, habits, foundations are in place in your career and your work life that maybe you need to just reevaluate or reassess. Maybe also coming into a better work-life balance between your home life and your career, and what you're doing to nourish yourself in both areas of your life could be a big theme as well. There could be clarity on Thursday too around whatever came up that was challenging on Tuesday in your work or your health, or maybe your routine, things like that. I feel like this is really giving you what you need in order to set a better precedent moving forward within your career and have a better foundation, a solid foundation of routine or systems or structures that help you moving forward. Then on Friday, there could be something that maybe triggers an identity shift or triggers a wound related to your identity or your appearance, that comes through in your career, maybe some argument with a coworker or your boss or something like that that kind of triggers maybe some worthiness things for you later in the day on Friday before the moon then moves over Pluto in your 11th house. This could be, and harmonizes with Uranus and Venus in your third house. This could be some very empowering shift around and transformation of how you're expressing yourself, how you're communicating yourself, your values, your worth, really living from that and really learning to be embodied in those changes that you have been facing as it relates to your self-worth and your values. So that feels like a big kind of come to Jesus moment around that over the weekend for you, Aries. And that is your week ahead. Let me know if that resonates with you in the comments, and I will see you next week. Okay, Taurus rising. We start the week off with the moon in your eighth house, opposite Venus and Uranus about to move into your second house. This could be a lot of things coming up around money for you. Maybe your stories around money or values, self-worth, how they're all kind of tied into those things. I feel like Taurus, you've really been in this energy of shifting your identity, shifting your perception of you, and how money ties into that. Then on Tuesday, we are going to have the moon in Sagittarius challenging Mars and Virgo in your fifth house. This could be some emotionally challenging thing around resources, debt, anything to do with like other people's money, and your creative passions, pursuits, maybe children if that applies as well. But it does kind of feel like you're getting clarity on what you want to do in terms of your creative passions and projects. But there could be something that's emotionally challenging around that too, whether it's like, again, this feels very financial for you, whether it's like, oh, I want to do this thing so I can have more resources, or I feel limited in being able to do this thing because the resources just aren't there in the ways that I need. So it's really about reframing your mindset, especially now with Uranus and Venus both in your second house. This is a really big shift around how you're viewing money, resources, and feeling supported by money and use it as a tool and resource. There could be some big shift though that happens from that clarity, from that breakthrough that occurred when Tuesday into Wednesday, later on Tuesday and into Wednesday, as the moon is going to harmonize with Chiron in your 12th house before the moon then moves into Capricorn, and it will be opposite Jupiter in your third house. So again, this is really going to support some big perspective shift, some big shift of how you're viewing things around you, and maybe the systems and structures you have, the foundational energies you have that are playing into that. Then we have the full moon later in the day on Thursday that could illuminate a lot of that for you and give you even more clarity around what systems and structures you need in place in terms of like the story you're telling yourself to create what you want in your actual reality. Friday, there could be something triggering that comes up around that as well, of like kind of maybe tests this your determination or your discipline with this new way of viewing life. That comes up as like a subconscious trigger or wound, that kind of again like tests your ability to really believe in what you're doing and the changes you're making in your life. Then on Saturday, the moon's going to move into your 10th house over Pluto. So I do feel like everything that came up earlier in the week, it's kind of like this is a resolution. This is an emotional transformation that's supported through this. Maybe you get a new idea or just kind of think outside the box on how you want to do things differently in your career to create whatever it is that you've been working on, putting it out into the world. That is a true passion or a creative project. It does feel like that could be beneficial to your finances too. Like you really did the work and you're going to start to see that mirrored in your reality from the inner work that you've done around whatever this is. So that's the week ahead for you, Taurus. Let me know how that resonates in the comments and I will see you next week. Okay, Gemini Rising, we start the week off with the moon in your 7th house. I feel like the first half of the week, you're going to be really focused on relationships, maybe putting yourself out there in new ways or getting clarity on what you want in relationships, what you're looking for. With Uranus and Venus both moving into your 1st house at the start of this week too, there's a big identity shift. There's a big renewal of you, how you're viewing yourself, your identity, your appearance, all of those things. Our 1st house terrain, and with Uranus and Venus both moving there, this is a big renewal of you, of your energy, how you're expressing yourself and how you're showing up in the world around you. But there could be some challenging thing that happens on Tuesday emotionally, as the moon in your 7th house is going to challenge Mars in your 4th house. That could be some conflict with a family member or somebody in your home, or somebody in your life. There's just some emotional tension that maybe draws you away from your home or things that need to be dealt with in your home. But it feels like there's the emotional pull is really on your relationships, whether that's friendships or romantic or like someone you're dating is like pulling you away from your ability to like keep your home organized or something like that. It does feel like there's just challenge there briefly. I mean, the moon never lasts long when it aspects things, but there could be something on Tuesday that's just a little challenging that maybe will trigger you a little bit. But I do feel like it will provide some emotional healing as well. As much as it will be challenging, it will provide you with maybe just some relief around some wound you've been working on healing. Then as we get into Wednesday, the moon moves into your 8th house. This is where the full moon in Capricorn is going to be. When the moon first moves into your 8th house, it's going to oppose Jupiter in your 2nd house. So this could be some big emotional breakthrough around money, finances, maybe related to like your long-term goals, visions, your ability to show up on social media and build the community you want to build. It feels like you're getting a lot more clarity on like, you know, how you want to make money and what you're doing with it, how you're investing it, where it's going, what you're doing to multiply it. I feel like that's the biggest theme of the full moon for you, Gemini, is really on your resources and what you're doing with the money that's coming in. And are you bringing in money in ways that really truly feel nurturing and supportive for you? And if not, what are some things you can shift around that? I feel like that's the clarity you're going to get with this full moon in Capricorn we have on Thursday. Friday, there could be something that, again, kind of comes up that's emotionally triggering for you around maybe whatever has been a theme for this whole kind of week on and off. As the moon is going to challenge Chiron in your 11th house, this could maybe be something that is a wound or a trigger from a friend or somebody in your community or something you see on social media. And maybe you feel like you need to take space from whatever this is so you can really like go internally and heal it once and for all. Then as we get into the weekend, the moon is going to move over Pluto in your 9th house and harmonize with Uranus and Venus in your 1st house. So this could be some big breakthrough and shift transformation emotionally from everything that came up in the week. This is like it's really extending into your perception of the world around you and your reality. This really does feel like a huge mindset breakthrough. that supports the change you're making in terms of like your sense of self. This could literally be like you wanting to dress better, present yourself better to the world, and because you realize it really affects your mood, kind of thing. So that's the week ahead for you, Gemini. Let me know how that resonates, and I'll see you next week. Okay, Cancer Rising. We start the week off with the moon in your sixth house of work. You could be pretty busy with work, like the first couple days of the week. With Uranus moving into your 12th house, it's really this uncovering of anything in your subconscious that is affecting. I feel like Cancer, you've been on this new journey. Like you've been on this renewal of your energy, of protecting yourself, of maybe honoring like which connections in your life feel equal and which don't. And so with Uranus moving into your 12th house with Venus there, it's kind of like you're getting a clearer glimpse of maybe what was causing any connections or anything in your life to be out of balance. And maybe how that has extended to every area of your life. So I feel like on Monday you might get some clarity through maybe a conflict or challenge or tension that happens in your work or just with your day-to-day routine around that. Then on Tuesday we have the moon in Sagittarius challenging Mars in your third house. This could be some not so comfortable conversation that happens at work or happens somewhere in your routine or where you go on a daily basis. It feels like most likely work. It does feel like you might be supported in making more money on this day or getting an idea around making more money through your passions. But it does feel like there is some challenging conversation maybe that is like kind of gets heated. So just watch out for that. Then on Wednesday, we're going to have the moon harmonizing with Chiron and Aries before it moves into Capricorn and into your seventh house. So there could be some just resolution around the conflict that came up earlier in the week, and getting some clarity around what really that triggered in you and what that wound is so you can heal it and move forward. As the moon it moves into Capricorn, your seventh house on Wednesday, it's going to oppose Jupiter in your first house. So this could feel like maybe there's someone in your life that's maybe pulling you away from your ability to focus on you. And this, like, it's almost like someone's testing your boundaries emotionally. And you have to really kind of honor you, even though this person wants you to like be there for them emotionally in a way that maybe doesn't feel so comfortable to you, especially with those boundaries you've been setting around having those exchanges be equal. Then on Thursday, the full moon is going to be in your seventh house. So this could be some breakthrough, clarity, illumination of relationships in general, and maybe letting go of ones that don't feel really reciprocal, right? It's like that's kind of been this whole week's theme for you, Cancer, is like, do these people in your life feel like, is it a balanced relationship? Is there an equal exchange that's happening there? And if not, maybe they need to, it needs to be reevaluated or maybe let go of completely so you can call in the people who actually do support you the same way that you support them. Then as we get into the weekend on Friday, the moon is going to harmonize with Chiron, or I'm sorry, challenge. It's going to square Chiron in your 10th house. So this could be, again, some kind of maybe uncomfortable conversation that happens in your career, your work, or maybe there's a wound that's brought up through somebody that you really have to like, again, delve into your psyche around and identify where that core wound came from and how to heal it so that it doesn't keep repeating itself, and so that you don't keep attracting these relationships that are really out of balance. Then Saturday, the moon is going to move over Pluto as it enters your eighth house, and it will oppose Mercury in your second house. So this could be your emotional focus this weekend could really be on money, on resources, and maybe realizing like, oh, the people I'm around, like how I'm spending my energy is also like ties into my finances in a lot of ways. If you're spending your time around people that drain you, you're more likely to invest your money into habits that like have to, what is the word for that? Like counteract the kind of emotional drain you're facing. So you might get clarity over the weekend on like, okay, I need to rein in the spending or just rein in like what I'm doing financially to take care of myself. And having better people around you that are actually supporting you in the ways that you are supporting them is going to positively impact your finances and create a positive transformation as well. So that's the week ahead for you, Cancer. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I will see you next week. Okay, Leo rising. We start the week off with the moon in your fifth house. You could be feeling like torn between creative pursuits, passions, romance, and like what is going on in your community or what's going on in like your long-term goals and visions you have for yourself. Like there's a whole new beginning happening there in your long-term goals, visions, community. You're realizing like what needs to occur there or what you want to occur there that maybe has been lacking. And like I think you're going to be torn between emotionally investing in your creative passions, projects, pursuits, romantic ventures, and like the massive change that's going on in your long-term visions and goals and outward community. Then on Tuesday, the moon is going to challenge Mars in your second house. So this could be something that feels really emotionally challenging around your money. I mean, with the South Node in your house of money, since January, like there's this big focus on releasing something that in your finances or in your possessions that doesn't benefit you anymore and choosing to release it so you can have space for something that does benefit you, that does actually align with what you want for yourself, especially your financial goals that are in alignment with your values. And so I think there could be like this come to Jesus moment, like at the beginning of the week, that happens around all of those things and the changes you want to make and what you need to take action on in order to have what you want in terms of that. Then as we get into Wednesday, the moon is going to harmonize with Chiron in your ninth house before it moves into your sixth house. So this could be healing maybe some wounds that were there around your perception of life or your just how you're viewing the world around you. Maybe you're spending more time on some creative thing or some romantic thing that is like feeling this healing in terms of how you're viewing life. I feel like you're feeling a lot more optimistic all of a sudden about things, even though there is a lot of chaos and there is a lot of change going on, not only underneath the surface, but on the surface. And then as we get in later into Wednesday, the moon moves into your sixth house in Capricorn and opposite Jupiter in your 12th house. This feels like you could be pulled between like how you want to expand and emotionally like what's going on in your work or your daily habits and things like that. It feels like there's just tension between those two areas of your life. Especially because the moon is going to challenge Saturn, Neptune in your ninth house. That kind of feels like this big wake up call of like, okay, is what I'm doing like what I really want to be doing? And it feels like you've woken up from a dream and you've gotten clarity on like how you want to make changes to what you've been doing because it's no longer in alignment like the way that you thought it was going to be. Then on Thursday, we have the full moon in Capricorn in your sixth house. Again, bringing these revelations and a culmination of energy that's maybe been building for 6 months in terms of your work and maybe your spirituality as well. And realizing like, oh, maybe mental health too. Like what I have been doing, what I thought was going to be the thing really has negatively impacted my mental health. And I have to like make some changes here. I have to release some stuff. But it does feel like that will be positive for your money, beneficial for your money in the long term. Even though it may be challenging or conflicting in the moment, as change usually is. Then on Friday, the moon in your sixth house is going to challenge Chiron in your ninth house. So again, there could be some emotional trigger that comes up around your perception of life, how you're viewing things. It could bring up maybe a deep-seated wound in terms of your belief systems, But I do feel like as we get into the weekend and the moon moves into your seventh house over Pluto, there could be some positive shift emotionally within your relationships that maybe supports all of this stuff that's going on, maybe supports a greater breakthrough around your long-term goals and visions and how you want to go about making those changes that you've gotten clarity around how to act on and move forward with all week. So that is the week ahead for you, Leo. Let me know how that resonates, and I will see you next week. Okay, Virgo, we start the week off with the moon in your fourth house. I mean, you could be really focused on your home at the beginning of the week, especially things might be really busy in your career. There could be some really big positive shifts in your career as Uranus and Venus are now in your 10th house. But it could feel like your home life is maybe pulling you away from that in some way, or you just have to like have a better system or structure in place as it relates to like what's going on in your home um, or with family in general, so that you can make the time to be focused on these changes that are occurring in your career, even though they are really chaotic and kind of came out of nowhere. They are really positive changes, but there has to be some sort of like balance you have with it. Also, as we get, yeah, later in the day on Monday, the moon is going to challenge Mars in your first house. So again, this could be some big maybe shift around your identity or needing to like do something differently to just have a better grip on the changes that are occurring for you emotionally and physically. Then Tuesday and into Wednesday, the moon is going to harmonize with Chiron in your eighth house. So this could be some positive emotional shifts around maybe you're like doing a lot of subconscious work and like really looking at like family beliefs and things that were passed down through maybe even like your generational line or just conditioning in general from your childhood kind of stuff that really heals your how you're viewing resources and money and maybe getting clarity on those long-term goals that you have for your finances and what's changing in your career to support all that. As we get into Wednesday, the moon is moving into your fifth house. This is where the full moon in Capricorn will be for you, Virgo. But first, it is going to square Saturn, Neptune in your eighth house, and oppose Jupiter in your 11th house. Again, calling for you to really get emotionally clear on your long-term goals and visions as it relates to money, your resources, and what you're doing with it. There may be some opportunity to change how you're making money or to like raise your prices or do something like that that allows you to have more flexibility because, you know, time is the only finite resource. So you're realizing like, okay, I need to like make some changes in terms of like the time I'm giving and the money I'm getting for that. That could be a theme of the full moon as well, or you could also be feeling more motivated on some creative passion or project that maybe has been on the back burner for 6 months or maybe has been like something you've been wanting to do for 6 months and it feels like with the full moon it's really coming to a head of like okay it maybe be related to like how you want to make more money of like this is what I'm going to do, this is what foundation I'm going to create to kind of have maybe like passive income in some kind of way through your creative passions pursuits or projects. Then as we get into Friday, the moon is going to challenge Chiron in your eighth house. Again, maybe bringing up some wounds around that of maybe worthiness or is my creative, is my art or my creative things even worth money? Are people even going to want this? It could bring up a lot of like deep seated beliefs around resources. But then I do feel like you're going to be supported in transforming that emotionally as we get into the weekend because the moon is going to be moving over Pluto in your sixth house and harmonizing with Uranus and Venus in your 10th house. This is a big emotional shift, a big emotional transformation around what you're doing for work, how you're making money, and your public image as well. Like, I just feel like things are really going to start to thrive for you. And you're going to see all of that kind of start to come to fruition this week, Virgo. It's kind of like, like the light bulb goes off and it kind of like, it makes sense. Like the fog has lifted in terms of having clarity around what's going on in your career and how to make the most of it. There could also be over the weekend as the moon is going to put some tension on Mercury in your 12th house. There could be some, again, just more mindset stuff that comes up, mental health stuff, subconscious belief work that comes up around what you're doing. So that's the week ahead for you, Virgo. Let me know how that resonates, and I will see you next week. Okay, Libra Rising, we start the week off on Monday with the moon in Sagittarius in your third house, opposite Uranus and Venus in your ninth house. There could be a lot of big shifts happening in your relationships right now, Libra, that are really propelling you to like speak up for yourself and speak your truth. That could stem from maybe conditioning or childhood things that happened that you felt like you couldn't speak up for yourself or you couldn't speak your needs. And so you're really in this, especially early this week, time period of learning how to speak up for yourself and speak your truth, no matter how people are going to take it. And that might be showing up most, like I said, in your relationships, whether that's romantic or friendships, and maybe getting more clarity on like your long-term goals as it relates to all of those things and how you want your relationships to look moving forward. Also on Monday, the moon is going to challenge Mars in your 12th house. So this could be, some not so comfy things that come up around your mental health or your subconscious or maybe even your spirituality. And again, like things that maybe you didn't realize were still there and affecting you and how you're communicating. But they're deep rooted subconscious kind of stuff. So it's going to be challenging emotionally, especially to like look at that. But I do think it is going to create a positive evolution of just how you're going about life in general moving forward. And then as we get into Tuesday, the moon is going to harmonize with Chiron in your seventh house. Speaking up for yourself or speaking your truth in maybe a way that you had held back on is going to create some healing or opportunity for healing of a wound or triggers within your relationships. Whether that's romantic or friendship or otherwise, like I've said. Then as we get into Wednesday, the moon is moving into your fourth house. This is where the full moon is going to be for you, Libra. So this could bring up a lot of stuff around your home. It could feel like maybe there's a manifestation or illumination or culmination of changes you've been making in your home, or maybe this is a move and finding the right place later this week as we have the full moon peaking in your area of home. This could be maybe something you've been manifesting for the last 6 months and really working hard towards, and it kind of comes to a completion around this time. But there could be some challenges that happen maybe within relationships with other people in your life as well that aren't so comfy to deal with. It could be like there's something emotionally happening in your home that people in your life are challenging you to look at, or vice versa. Because the moon, once it moves into your fourth house, it is going to challenge Saturn, Neptune in your seventh, and then it is going to oppose Jupiter in your 10th. So this could also bring up maybe some things around, okay, I want to do this in my career. I feel really expansive in my career, but my home maybe limits some of that expansion or what I want to do in terms of my career. But I do feel like that clarity is coming around that this week, and the foundations or the structure systems you need to have in place to feel like is expanded in your career as you want to be. And maybe that's in alignment too with the changes you've been making in your finances and your long-term goals and visions as well. I do feel like that clarity will be reached as we get more into the week. And like I said, we have that full moon and on Thursday that can bring an illumination of that. Then as we get into Friday, the moon is going to challenge Chiron in your seventh house before it moves into Aquarius. So that could be some triggering thing that happens through your home or through a relationship that again brings up these maybe themes of feeling supported or childhood conditioning stuff once again. But then on Friday, later in the day, the moon is going to move into your fifth house non-Pluto, harmonize with Uranus and Venus in your ninth house. This could be some positive shift emotionally, transformation around your creative passions, pursuits, projects, or maybe romance as well. Like you're meeting someone new and it's really helping you to transform and make those changes that you have been wanting to make, and all of a sudden it feels like you're on the path of. So really exciting stuff happening for you, despite the tension and the conflicts of earlier in the week, Libra. And that's what I have for you. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I will see you next week. Okay, Scorpio, like the moon in your second house on Monday, late on Sunday and into Monday. It is gonna add tension to Uranus and Venus in your eighth house. This could be this brand new beginning around resources, finances, money, feeling supported by money. But there could be something that emotionally challenges that as we, maybe depending on where you are in the world and how late you sleep in or how late you stay up, um, there could be some tension between your money and what's coming in, like the flow of it. But that's only temporary. I do think it's gonna create the clarity you've needed, maybe support a move, or like I do feel like there's going to be some culmination of energies that you've been sitting with or wanting to take action towards for several months, and it feels like this is the kind of week where it all kind of comes together and you get the answers you need, although it may be challenging at first. Also on Monday, the moon is going to challenge Mars in your 11th house. This could be some maybe like if you're on social media, this could be some like negative comment from somebody that really like triggers you emotionally and maybe triggers this deep seated belief around money or something like that. But again, just sit with it, maybe journal it out to get more clarity on the deeper kind of part of you that brought up for you to look at and maybe shift. Then on Tuesday, the moon in Sagittarius is going to harmonize with Chiron in your 6th house. So that this could be beneficial for whatever came up. Like it could be like you worked through it and then maybe it inspired you to create content around it, or it inspired you to like target somebody who also like target your content to help somebody who also struggles with that kind of thing. Then as we get into Wednesday and the moon moves into Capricorn, your 3rd house, I feel like you're going to be feeling more expressive. And that might be a big theme of the full moon for you, Scorpio, is really how are you communicating your ideas, your information? How are you sharing yourself with the world? What are you doing on a daily basis to be able to do that in a way that feels good to you? But it could feel like it challenges some perspective of life that you have or some perception. Again, I feel like this whole week for you, Scorpio, is really like transforming the deep subconscious and the belief systems at play that are affecting your reality and maybe kind of stalling things from moving forward for you. Again, big theme of the full moon for you on Thursday in your 3rd house. And then as we get into the weekend, early on Friday, the moon is going to challenge Chiron in your 6th house. So again, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, this is really like emotional wounds and triggers around your ideas and like how you're expressing yourself, and just maybe this simple act of you expressing yourself more is bringing up this stuff of like, oh, do I have a message to share? Do people want what I have to share? It's almost like this imposter syndrome or this self-doubt that's coming up around what you're doing for work and how you're sharing yourself in your career. That might be a big theme of the Mercury retrograde we have upcoming in Leo as well. Is am I expressing myself in the ways that I want to? And do I believe in myself? Do I have confidence in how I share my ideas and myself with the world to help other people? Then later in the day on Friday, the moon is going to move into Aquarius in your 4th house over Pluto. So this could support some emotional shift or maybe some physical actual shift in terms of your home, where you're living, or just your approach to all of those things, maybe with family as well. There could be some influx of finances that comes in to support your shift in your home or your family life in some way as well. And then that might cause you to really look at, okay, what am I doing in my home that's supporting my work, or vice versa, right? So that's what we had for you, Scorpio. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I will see you next week. Okay, Sagittarius, we start the week off with the moon in your 1st house, opposite Uranus and Venus in your 7th house. This could be, at the start of the week, you could be feeling a little bit more sensitive than normal. It could be like this big emotional renewal as well, maybe related to some shifts that are happening and taking place in your relationships or work that are supporting shifts you want to see happen in your relationships. This could be like a new person coming in and feeling really emotionally supported by them, or feeling like they trigger some emotional wound that you didn't realize was there until you met this person and experienced what it is they're changing about your life and approach to relationships in general. Also on Monday, the moon is going to challenge Mars in your 10th house. So This could be some kind of emotional trigger around you as well that comes up in your career. Maybe it's like a negative comment from somebody on social media or at work or whatever, that kind of maybe triggers you emotionally and makes you realize some things about your sensitivity, or maybe learning to trust your intuition more because that person proved it right. Then on Tuesday, the moon is going to harmonize with Chiron in your fifth house. This is like supportive emotional healing around you, identity shifts that have been occurring, and your creative passions, projects, pursuits, maybe even romance as well, or children if that applies. It does feel like some emotional healing happens on Tuesday related to maybe what came up on Monday or maybe all last week. Then as we get into Wednesday, the moon is going to move into your second house. First, it's going to challenge Saturn and Neptune in your fifth house. So this could be feeling emotionally restrictive around money, or maybe just reevaluating your money and what you're doing to make it from your creative projects and pursuits, like what you're putting out into the world to create the resources that you want. And that's, the full moon is going to bring up a lot of that for you too, Sagittarius, because it is going to be in your area of money. There could be this feeling of like, oh, I want to invest in all these things, or I want to do all these things like with my resources. But on Wednesday, there could be this emotional kind of tension between what you want to do and maybe what you are able to do, or what your practical side is telling you is feasible for you to do. You might get more clarity around that, illumination of those themes on Thursday with the full moon. We have in Capricorn, it is going to harmonize with the South Node as well as the North Node. So this could be some big illumination of like what you need to release in your career to bring in more money, or what maybe just needs to change about how you're sharing yourself and providing a service to, through your work or to your people that's bringing in money for you. Then as we get into Friday, the moon is going to challenge Chiron in your fifth house again, maybe bringing up themes of like feeling limited with money, from what you want to do, or maybe triggering like self-doubt around something you want to create and put out into the world, and questioning like, is it really going to be the thing that makes me money? Like, is it going to positively benefit my finances in the ways that I want it to? But I do feel like as we get into the weekend, especially on later in the day on Friday, as the moon moves into your third house and over Pluto, there is some positive shift and transformation in terms of how you're sharing yourself, your ideas, to serve humanity. And it is going to positively benefit some change in your relationships, as well, because it will harmonize with Uranus in your seventh house too. Then on Saturday, the moon in your third house is going to oppose Mercury in your ninth house. So this could be just maybe feeling like belief systems are called into question, how you're viewing life is called into question. Maybe you've gotten a lot of clarity on really what inside of you has created the challenges you faced, maybe especially in the last few weeks, and you're really focused on over the weekend on changing your internal story around creation and around like what gets to be true for you in your life now and moving forward. So that's the week ahead for you, Sagittarius. Let me know how that resonates, and I will see you next week. Okay, Capricorn Rising. We start the week off with the moon in your 12th house. That might not be so comfy. I always like have low energy when the moon is in my 12th house personally, and it's going to challenge also on Monday Mars in your ninth house. So this could really bring up some deep-seated subconscious beliefs, deep-seated subconscious emotions that you didn't realize were there and have been maybe affecting how you're just moving out into the world, like how you're moving through life. And maybe you're really challenged on Monday to see some things differently because they were brought to light that you didn't, in ways that you didn't even realize were affecting you. And then as we get into Tuesday, the moon is going to harmonize with Chiron in your fourth house. So there could be some positive emotional healing around what came up within your mental health space, within your subconscious beliefs, that maybe supports a change in your home or supports the healing of wounds or triggers that were maybe being brought up through your home from childhood kind of stuff. This is like deep subconscious work that's occurring for you early this week, Capricorn. So maybe take it easy. Don't expect too much of yourself because this is like really energetically taxing, or it could be. Then as we get into Wednesday, the moon is going to move into your first house and kind of will be this emotional renewal. Again, I feel like whenever the moon is in the 12th house, it's kind of like lay low energy, like don't expect too much of yourself. Because it's really this, the emotional mood is on your deep psyche and subconscious and bringing things to light that were previously hidden from you. So that's not always easy to face. It's like shadow work energy, right? So but as we get into Wednesday, I do feel like there will be some big renewal of you, your emotional health, your sensitivity. And then, there could be some challenge happening too between, or tension between like your relationships and what you want to do or how you want to expand with people in your life or in your relationships. Maybe you've started some new thing, you're seeing somebody and you really love hanging out with them. It feels really supportive, but it also feels like emotionally you're pulled away from yourself in some ways. And so you're learning how to further balance that, especially with the full moon we have happening in these areas of your life. On Thursday, there could be some big illumination of like maybe just things you need to have in place, structure, a schedule, systems to help you take care of yourself and not be overly focused on your relationships in a way that is detrimental to you. Then Thursday and into Friday or early on Friday, there could be some big emotional shift or that happens through a challenge or conflict within your home or brings up a further wound and trigger that maybe is kind of a revisitation of what came up earlier in the week. But it does feel like it will be emotionally healing and support some major transformation in terms of your self-worth and your values, and maybe directly impact your money too as we get into Friday and the moon moves into your second house of money and joins Pluto, harmonizing with Uranus and Venus in your sixth house. This could be you're doing something new in your work or you're innovating what you're doing for work in some way or sharing some new thing, and it positively transforms your financial picture. Then we get into later in the weekend, Saturday, the moon is going to oppose Mercury in your eighth house. So this could be some just emotional tension between your finances, your possessions, and like what is coming up at a deeper level around resources and feeling supported by resources and your subconscious. So again, big subconscious like overhaul and a lot of things coming up around belief systems this week for you, Capricorn. So let me know how that resonates, and I will see you next week. Okay, Aquarius Rising. We start the week off with the moon in your 11th house. It is going to be harmonizing with Mercury in your 7th house later in the day on Monday. So this could be some positive emotional shift around feeling supported through people in your life, maybe helping you to get more emotional clarity around your long-term goals and your long-term visions. But early in the day on Monday, there could be some tension around your creative passions, pursuits, maybe children, if that applies, or romance, if that applies, and your long-term goals and visions. It's almost like you're feeling like at odds with those two things. But then I do feel like later as we get into Monday, you will get emotional clarity around that. There could also be some challenge or conflict that occurs within your resources, your finances in some way that propels you into that clarity, or to have a conversation with somebody that helps you to reach that clarity around whatever this is. As we get into Tuesday, the moon is going to harmonize with Chiron in your third house. So again, this is a lot of healing of like your communication style, what you're doing, where you're going, who you're talking to on a daily basis, how you're sharing your ideas, how you're sharing information, maybe even too how you're consuming information. There could be a positive change with that is supported as well. Then as we get into Wednesday, the moon moves into your 12th house. You might be feeling kind of low energy. There might be something that is triggered through an errand you run or somebody you talk to, or maybe a sibling or something like that emotionally brings up this wound or this like subconscious thing that you didn't realize was still kind of affecting you and running underneath the surface. Could also be a big theme of the full moon for you, Aquarius Rising, as the full moon will be in your 12th house of the subconscious, of mental health. So you're really focused on this week balancing your physical health with your mental health, and having structure, systems, maybe a schedule, a routine in place to help you to be able to balance those things and to be able to do that. I do feel like work is picking up for you. There's maybe some positive changes in work, maybe feeling really busy or really expanded there. And so there's this need to not neglect your mental health to for the sake of work. As we get into Friday, the moon moves into your first house. It feels like kind of supporting some big emotional transformation or some big, as it relates to your sense of self, a big emotional renewal or transformation in terms of you, your identity, your appearance. Maybe just feeling like renewed from everything that came up in the week and how you handled it and the resolution or the clarity you received from it. The moon, as it moves over Pluto in your first house on Friday, is going to harmonize with Uranus and Venus in your fifth house. This could support some creative projects or pursuits, passions that you're wanting to share or put out into the world. This could also be romantic. Your sex life could be popping as well, Aquarius, because of this transit. So take it as it resonates, but that's for somebody. Saturday, the moon opposes Mercury in your seventh house, so this could bring some tension. This could bring up some emotional tension between your relationships and your ability to care for and focus on yourself. Again, this week is all kind of about balance for you, Aquarius, of like maybe needing to have conversations with somebody in your life so you can have space to take care of yourself in the ways that you need and not be overwhelmed and not be so much focused on the external and what's going on around you with your relationships, with your work, that you're neglecting your own needs. So I do feel like that's going to be the focus of your weekend. And that's the week ahead for you, Aquarius. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I will see you next week. Okay, Pisces, we start the week off with the moon in your 10th house. I feel like this could be, as we start the week off, like Sunday into Monday, there maybe could be some tension between your home life and your career, maybe changes that have just kind of come up unexpectedly in your home or your family, around maybe where you're living or who you're living with, or maybe you've all of a sudden you want to move to, I don't know, Bali or something, and you're like, that's actually going to support my art career, but it does feel like there's some sort of like thing you have to work through emotionally to feel supported in making that change in the way that you want to. It could be somebody in your life like brings up some conflict or challenges between somebody in your life. Maybe they really don't support what you want to do, and so you have to kind of battle with that. There's some emotional challenges around that on Monday. Tuesday, the moon harmonizes with Chiron in your second house, so this could positively benefit your money and like what you're doing in your career, what you're sharing, what you're creating to bring in more money. I feel like that's been such a theme for you, Pisces, since Saturn and Neptune moved into your second house. Like, what are you doing to make money? Is it something that you love doing? Is it not? What needs to change there to just feel better about it? Now, as we get into Wednesday and the moon moves into Capricorn and we're getting real close to the full moon, early in the day on Wednesday, the moon is going to challenge Saturn and Neptune in your second house. So there could be some wake up call or wake up kind of come to Jesus moment around your finances and what you're doing to share your creative passions and pursuits with the world. Almost like, this is just one example, but if someone's been telling you need to get on TikTok and you've been resistant, you're like, actually, I do need to get on TikTok because that's like what's going to help my creativity like shine, or my art shine, or whatever it is that you're doing. And that could positively benefit your money. And then on Thursday, we're going to have the full moon in Capricorn in your 11th house. So that could bring up more clarity or just illumination around your long-term goals and visions and what you're doing creatively that supports that, what you're sharing with the world, your creative passions, projects, pursuits. Also, later in the day, well, as actually Thursday into Friday, the moon is going to challenge Chiron in your second house. So again, that could bring us some themes around like what is really there that you're resistant to in terms of putting yourself out there or building community around what you do to bring in more money. Like, what is the wound? What is the trigger? What is the like belief around all of that? And how can you shift it to really just better flow into what is meant for you? Because if people are telling you about something, like, it's probably because it's meant for you. Like, I feel like nothing really in life is a coincidence. And so it's kind of like, okay, what in me is resisting this and why? And you have to really kind of face that later in the week. But I do feel like once you do, there will be this positive emotional shift and transformation, and maybe a breakthrough in terms of your home or your family life and the changes you want to make there that have been coming up all week, but maybe have felt like, okay, I got to put this on the back burner for now and deal with all this other stuff. But it does feel like once you deal with all that other stuff, this change is supported in your home. Um, and you might be feeling more emotionally clear about it as well as we get into the weekend. So that's the week ahead for you, Pisces. Let me know how that resonates, and I will see you next week. All right, y'all. Thanks for being here as always. Let me just read through your comments real quick. Hi, Masha. Is the Jupiter placement in the birth chart show our ideal partner? That's debatable. If you get my soulmate report from my website, it will tell you about your Jupiter and your soulmate, but it also walks you through other placements in your chart because we have to look at these things holistically. We can't just isolate stuff. Hi, Natty. Hi, Natasha. Hi, Tori. Hi, lady. Thank you all for being here. The replay will be posted once I end the live, and I'll add timestamps as soon as I can. Usually within like the next 10 minutes, the timestamps will be added, and you can go back and find your rising sign horoscope for the week. So thanks for being here. Once you watch your rising sign horoscope, let me know how it resonates in the comments. And yeah, I appreciate you all. I'll see you next time. Bye.